and welcome to Window on the World, a show where we highlight MSSU students and faculty members who have had the opportunity to travel internationally and are willing to share some of their experiences with us. I'm your host, Alecia Henson, and today I will be interviewing a group of students and a faculty member who recently traveled to Belize to study the ecosystems. Hi guys, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. So for starters, I'm going to have you introduce yourselves, your major, and kind of what your future career plans are.
Okay. Well, I'll start. My name is Abby Fender, and I'm a biology major at Southern, and I hope to be a doctor someday. I'm applying to med school.
Oh, okay, very cool. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Bentz. I'm an environmental health major, and I hope to work with a business in the future to make them comply with federal regulations.
Okay.
My name is Blair. I'm a biology major, and I hope to become a doctor.
Okay, so we got two doctors. Very cool.
I'm Dr. Scott Wells. I'm in the Department of Biology and Environmental Health. My main teaching background is actually in physiology and pathophysiology, so the biomes is a little bit out of my realm, but I hugely enjoy it. It's one of my favorite classes to do.
Okay, so it's kind of like a hobby, something you really enjoy learning about?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we're just going to get a little more background on this trip, like how many students went, when you went there, and how many days you were there.
Right. This is part of our Biomes 352 class. It's a 3-credit class, and we meet through the semester, kind of give an overview of the rainforest and coral reef biomes, and then it culminates with travel in May for 11 days, 10 nights in Belize at the very end of the semester. So we go kind of mid-May into May.
Okay, gotcha. And where exactly is Belize at for those of our viewers who don't know?
Belize is a small Central American country. It's just south of Mexico and just east of Guatemala. So that's kind of, the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
It's just south of that.
Okay, gotcha. So definitely a pretty area.
Yeah, it's beautiful, yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so what led you guys to want to go on this trip to Belize?
Well, I had some friends that I've run into who have been on the trip 2 years ago, and everyone talked amazing things about it. I never heard one bad thing, just about how beautiful it was, how fun the teachers were, just the experience as a whole was incredible, and so I thought I needed to go.
It was just something you were like, wow, it sounds so great, definitely go have to experience it for myself.
Yeah, definitely, and I've never been out of the country, so it was my first experience,
gotcha.
and I always wanted to go somewhere tropical, so this kind of fit.
Were you nervous going on
I was.
on a plane?
I was very nervous, yeah.
But it was all smooth flying?
For the most part. We had a few hiccups here and there, but it was good.
Okay, and for you, what made you want to go on the trip?
Well, the fact that it was Belize really stood out to me. I wanted to go somewhere kind of tropically, go to the beach. But also because when I signed up for it, I was a strictly biology major, and so the class really fit, but it still fits even with environmental health. So.
And had you been out of the country before?
Not really, like on a cruise.
Okay,
So.
gotcha. And for you?
So I knew that I was going to need to do a study abroad trip to graduate with honors, and when I saw the Belize trip, I realized that it would allow me to intersect my passion for science with my love of travel.
Gotcha. And from my understanding, you guys had to take a 16-week course before you were able to go to Belize. Could you kind of
Yes.
describe that class and what you learned from it?
Well, the class we met at the beginning of the semester, we met about every 2 weeks or so. And we started off going over the history of Belize and what the country is really about. And we learned about the different people that live there. And then we went into the ecosystem and the more biomes part. So we learned about the coral reefs that we were studying and different plants such as the mangroves. And so it was neat to see pictures in the class and then to go to the trip and actually see real life what you're learning.
Okay, gotcha. And so you would go into labs and look at these plants and everything, or how exactly were you able to see them? Just pictures, or?
Yeah, it doesn't really have a lab component, but we would have reading assignments, or we looked at a lot of images. A lot of things are available online, plus we showed some of the pictures from prior trips, and so the students kind of built upon that and got to see those images, and then it's really neat when you get to go there and see them in real life.
What were the tests like? Did you have to take tests and do a lot of memorization that way?
I mean, we had some assignments, writing assignments that they would do. They did do a fish identification quiz that they had to pass to get a certain level so they would know those species before they would go down there. But it wasn't really heavy intensive as far as the testing and
It was
things.
more just getting culturally ready and getting prepared for the trip and everything you were going to see.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. So what were some of the activities that you got to do while in Belize studying the ecosystems there?
Oh gosh, well the list goes on and on. Yeah. We began our trip in the jungle of Belize, and so that was more I referred it to like camping. You were in cabins, you were no air conditioning, kind of, yeah.
What was the
and
temperature? Was it pretty hot?
It was humid.
Hot and humid, yeah.
Very humid.
So kind of like Kansas or worse than that?
I don't know. I think the difference is you don't ever get a break from it. I don't think it's really going to be hotter than it is or humid like it's been here lately. It's just that you don't get a break. It's not like you can come back in and get in the air conditioning. You're out there 24/7.
No ice water.
There's no ice. That's one of the things we like about the field station where we stay. It does get the students a little bit out of their comfort zone. There's no running water. There's no air conditioning, no ice. In fact, the locals just bathe in the creek where we are, so some of us, that was just easier to do.
Bring your own shampoo and just kind of
Yes.
wash yourself down in a creek. That does sound like a good time. That's like getting a really outdoors
Well,
experience.
in the
so.
field station, there is a shower, but all they do is pump the creek water up and then into it. There's
Into
no
the
hot
shower.
water, so there's really no difference.
Okay.
And so you have to drink the bottled water that they bring in because they don't have wells for fresh water or anything like that. There's no phone service or internet service while we're down in the rainforest, so that kind of gets the students away from
Technology, which we do
social
love.
media
So.
and stuff, at least for part
Mm-hmm.
of it, which is good.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and all those factors, they're really intimidating, or they can be, because like you said, you really get out of your comfort zone. But what I liked is you're immersed in their culture. I mean, you're living almost like the locals in a way. You know, they don't have air conditioning, they don't have all these just really privileges we have in the States, and so you get a real feel for how their life is.
Just a real eye-opener and
Yeah.
how some people live their lives.
Absolutely.
So, go ahead.
Every day we were with local guides, and so some of the guides would take us up into the jungle and they would show us the local medicinal plants and teach us about what they use to treat the ailments of the people in the community. And then they would also take us on cave exploring excursions or hiking mountains, really out in the middle of Belize in the jungle.
That's amazing. So you got to go into some of these caves?
Yes.
Were they like near the ocean or just more in the jungle area where these caves were located?
It was in the jungle, yeah, in the rainforest. There's 2 access points to this one cave, and we ended up getting lucky. It's based upon the level of the water, because the stream runs through it, Blue Creek stream runs through it. And we got to go up in where the headwaters come out and go way up into the cave. Completely dark. We got to go all the way back into where the creek actually emerges out and starts going through that cave and then emerges out by the village. But it's pretty cool.
So
I
you
think
gotta
the students like that.
So you got to see a lot of wildlife then, with bats and
Oh, yeah.
spiders. Did you see a lot of spiders?
Yeah, we saw a few. I mean, they get pretty big.
Sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm not much of an insect gal. Actually, like the other day, I had this huge spider that I opened my door. I was going to leave for the day, and there's this huge spider and this huge spider web. And I did what any rational person did. I closed the door. I locked the door. I was like, ran and got my room. I was like, all right, you got to take care of that before I can leave. So I'm definitely not much of an insect gal. So.
Well, a couple of nights we went out specifically trying to see insects and reptiles that it's a little bit easier to identify during the night. Didn't get to see as many of the snakes and things as I was hoping for, but we did get to see some big spiders, cockroaches that are huge,
Scorpions.
scorpions. Yeah, were really a lot of scorpions.
What would you say was the most interesting creatures that you got to see?
Oh, for me, in the jungle, it was the wolf spiders, I think.
Oh.
Just because I'm not a huge fan of spiders either, but I mean, they're just ginormous. And when we went on the night hikes, you could shine your flashlights in the jungle, and you could see their beady eyes, and it was kind of creepy, but
Well,
Yeah.
one of the things as far as on that I was thinking were the termites, because the termites are everywhere and they build these huge nests, and the students got to actually stick their finger into the nest, get some of the termites on their fingers and eat the termites live. So that was kind of a neat experience.
Did you do that?
No.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, you're brave.
Yeah, it was something. I came home and I was bragging about it, and people just looked at me like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know if you want to be bragging about eating live termites.
Right. But they were actually very sweet. It was
Really?
yeah, just an amazing experience.
Very cool. And for you, what was some of your favorite creatures you got to see?
Well, I probably have to agree with the wolf spider. The first night there was one probably this big in one of the bunks, so kind of got desensitized to spiders all at the front there.
Did you kill it? Or you were like respectful and like, all right, Mr. Wolf Spider, we can be friends, just don't get on me.
Well, that was a big argument with some of the girls in the cabin, so I don't remember if it ended up being killed or let free, but it was weird to know that, like, a week in, spiders that were 3 inches big. I was like, it's not that big.
Yeah. You definitely got used to it.
Yeah.
And for you?
I think my highlight was actually the leafcutter ants. And you can see them all over the campsite. They make these amazing trails, and they actually carve out their own trails. And so we could follow them back into the jungle to see where their nest and their home was. And they would just be carrying these massive chunks of leaves that were double their size. So I thought that was really awesome.
Gotcha. So what were some of the most interesting things you learned about the ecosystem when compared to like the ecosystem here in America? What was what you thought some of the more interesting things you noticed?
Let's see. Oh, for me, really the plants were amazing. I mean, the trees here, they're deciduous trees, so it's a completely different, just a different environment as a whole. And I got so many pictures. One girl on the trip, she plays volleyball, and so she's 6'2". So I got a few pictures of her next to the trees, and I mean, 3, 4, 5 times her height. I mean, they're huge, and they're big. Lots of them were big palm trees. So that was just amazing to me. And the different flowering plants, they were just so beautiful. The bright colors, it's something very different than here.
Yeah.
We're used to, like, I get excited over roses here, you know, which they are beautiful, but they're just, you can't describe the colors.
Yeah, just that plant life that we don't necessarily have here.
Right.
For you?
Probably the biggest difference that stood out to me from here is how big everything is. There were leaves like taller than I was, so some of that was, you know, like she was saying, the size of the tree. Just everything was so much
Massive.
bigger and greener, and overwhelming.
Gotcha. For you?
Well, I would absolutely agree with both of their comments, and then I would just add that it felt like everything in the jungle served a really unique purpose. So there would be these massive plants with leaves that formed cups that would catch water and form their own miniature ecosystems. Or there would be other trees that our medicinal shaman would chop, and they would bleed this sap that can be used as a salve. So it was really, really unique to see that everything served a purpose and that the people knew how to utilize that purpose.
Gotcha. Were you able to see the ocean too, did you say, or did you just hang out more in the jungle area?
Well, the first half of the travel down there, we go in the very southern part of Belize. It's very near Guatemala, and we spend the time in the rainforest. And then we take a bus, travel to a port city, get on a boat, and then the second half we actually are on a small island that's right on the barrier reef. So it's kind of split into two, since we'd covered both the rainforest and the coral reef. First half we're in the rainforest, second half we're out there right on the coral reef.
Did you experience any jungle storms while you were there? Did it rain at all?
Amazingly, no. This is the fourth time we've been down there. Every other time, because I'd warned this too, you know, it's a rainforest, it's probably going to rain. It was dry, and so we never had to worry at all about the rain while we were in the rainforest.
That makes
Actually,
it
we got a
nice.
little rain, a little bit when we were on the island, but in the rainforest it didn't rain once. So.
Gotcha. And so you said you traveled to a boat to your other location. How was that?
Oh yeah, explain the boat.
Well, it's a small boat, and normally the water isn't very choppy, but on our particular day it was very choppy. And so as the boat picked up speed, we began hitting these massive breakers, and so we were getting splashed, and it was about a half-an-hour boat ride.
The island we stay is about 12 miles off the coast of Belize. Like I said, it's right on the barrier reef. And it's just an outboard motor boat, fiberglass, not much different than you might think you'd see in a lake around here, a little bit longer, but not much. And it was a pretty rough ride out there. We've never experienced it before. Normally it's just like glass, and it was really windy, and it was just screams the whole time going out there.
Kind of like a little roller coaster.
We would leave our seats and then slam back down.
Get some bruises from that then?
It was a rough ride.
Gotcha. Well, from my understanding, we have a slideshow with some of the pictures that you guys took from your trip, so we'll go ahead and pull that up so you guys can kind of explain what we're seeing.
Okay.
Okay. Looks like we have some pretty water there.
That's Blue Creek. The first field station that we stay at, which you can see the field station there, is in Blue Creek. Blue Creek is also a village. That's like a quarter mile, half mile from where we stay. But that's where we spend the first half of the.
And so did you all stay in like a hut or like a house? Okay.
That's the housing there. That's where the students stayed. It's dormitory type facilities. It's kind of like staying at a scout camp type of environment. That's how I would probably describe it.
So just some bunks, and then you all shared a room and with some spiders, and then
Right?
Okay. And then it looks like we're on a trail here, looking at plants.
Yeah, Blair, you were in that group, kind of.
Yeah, so this was our hike with the local medicinal shaman, and so he's walking us through the garden that he's planted within the jungle and teaching us about his uses for each of those plants.
Okay.
He's amazing. I mean, he knows every single plant. He knows what you could do with it. It was pretty neat.
Well, what were some of the plant remedies, like for burns and everything? Was that what they were showing you, or?
Everything.
You name it.
Yeah, you name it.
Colds.
Colds, GI problems, snake bites, just anything you can think of. They'd have,
Malaria.
yes, anything.
Diabetes,
They would have a
actually.
medicinal use
Really?
for.
Yeah.
I have a lot of family members who have that. I definitely should go on this
Right.
trip maybe and learn about that. so-
Exactly. Well, and that's one of the advantages too, is because you think biomes, oh, I have to be environmental or just strictly biology. But Blair and I want to be doctors someday, and that we learned from that as well. I mean, it applied to something we could use in the future as
Gotcha.
physicians. Yeah.
Yeah, something that maybe right now isn't common, but later on, especially
Right,
with
it
everything
could
we're
be.
learning about medicine, could go from there and learning
Well,
more
and
about
actually,
medicine.
a lot of pharmaceuticals originate from botanicals, biological origins. A lot of those big pharmaceutical companies go down and collect plants just to try to figure out what type of compounds are in there that they might potentially have a medicinal use. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't. Is there a way you can go back at all? You may not be able to go backwards on those. But
Yeah.
Okay, that one. It's hard to see in that image, but that's when we were doing what we kind of nicely called the jungle hike. But it maybe should be called like the mountain climbing. It's really a strenuous, steep climb up the top of this mountain, and that's what they're doing there. In fact, we were lucky this time because they did bring some climbing ropes, so as we were going down, it helped quite a lot. But it is a tough hike to the top of that.
How many miles is it?
I don't know the distance.
But it feels like
and
a
it's-
long way.
Well, it's the steepness of it. I mean, it's just, you basically are pulling yourself up every step. Sometimes it really tires you out.
Right, and you're climbing on leaves and mud, so you're on all fours. You know, using
Slipping, sliding.
using everything you've got. Rocks are kind of falling behind you, so it was strenuous.
It's an adventure.
It was an adventure, but what made it great too was that view. That's the reward you get at the end. So those
It is
who made it to
beautiful.
the top, you get to see such a beautiful view, and we even saw parts of, we think, Guatemala from our view. So it was just amazing.
Do you know how high up you were by chance, or?
No, I have no idea.
Gotcha.
But it's, you can, from that
beautiful.
particular vantage point, based upon the clarity, you can see all the way to Guatemala. You can actually see a little bit toward Roatan of Honduras and a little bit of the ocean. So it's a great view.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And is that a local hut right there?
Yeah, I've included that just because that's one of the homes within Blue Creek Village, just to give you an idea of just their thatch roof, really basic type of living conditions. And to me, that's almost I know we're kind of, it's biomes and the rainforest is the main gist of the course, but I almost think the best part of when we're in Blue Creek is getting the students just to be able to interact, get into the village, talk with the locals. We actually got to go into their home. I think that is a really neat experience for the students.
So did you get to eat dinner with them and experience
I'll
it
let you
that, or
guys-
did you just got to sit and talk together?
We actually got to have a cooking lesson with one of the
Right.
families, and so they taught us how they make their traditional corn tortillas, and then we were actually allowed to make them with them and help them.
Oh,
And
that's
then
very
they
cool.
showed us how they start with the actual coffee bean plant, and then they turn that into a cold, refreshing drink that they use when they're out working in the fields.
How long did it take to do all that? For me, I feel like that would take me like a good 6 or 7 hours because I'm not a chef. So.
We were there for a few hours.
Yeah, we were there for quite a while, but it is amazing. And I think we have a picture of that as well. The one picture that was just up there was actually of their schoolhouse.
Oh,
That's the students in there making the tortilla. Yeah, and you can see that's just in their house, and it's just a wood-fired. I use the term stove loosely. It's just a cooking surface that they'd actually made out of ash and water. They'd made this cooking surface. And just start the fire right there inside. You can look up at the thatch, and it's just covered with smoke and kind of soot from over the time of that coming up. But every student got to make the tortilla and cook them on there. And this is all, of course, corn that they've grown, they've collected, made the masa, and done
Just everything they do themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely different from here from America, where you can just
Very
go to Taco
different.
Bell and just grab yourself a burrito and you're on your way. So.
Well, and then they got to do the cacao, and they showed them how they ferment those, dry them, make the chocolate. So we got to have the chocolate drinks and different types. That was neat.
Just makes you really appreciate everything that you have, and
Oh,
makes
tell
you
them
appreciate their culture
they've got
too.
the iguana hunt picture, so tell them about the iguana
This
hunt.
is an adventure.
Yeah.
So the local guides that took us around the rainforest while we were there, one day we went to a certain part of the creek and we were told we were going to catch iguanas, and of course none of us knew what that meant. Well, the guides actually climbed the trees next to the creek and almost shake the iguanas out of the trees. And so these iguanas fall, and then on the ground there's little dogs who round up the iguanas. And we're just standing there ready, and all of a sudden these iguanas come flying out of the forest or the jungle, and then we had to catch them. So we were all ready in our bathing suits in the creek, and then you actually catch the iguanas.
With your bare hands.
In the water. I mean,
In
they
the
drop
water.
in the water, and they'll be swimming
Swimming
along, and
around.
so the students would have to try to catch
Did you catch
them.
yourself one? Or were they
we
pretty
did.
slippery?
They're
we
slick, but
Yeah, because I don't know if there was, I think 2 of them in that picture there.
They're
that
holding
we've
them?
got. Yeah.
yeah,
It was great.
It looks like it's
it was.
fun. My brother would love that. He loves iguanas. He has like a
course,
water dragon.
We call that the iguana hunt. It used to be, of course, that they would literally hunt the iguanas, and that was one of their food sources. They don't do that anymore, but it was kind of the experience of culturally a little bit of what they would have done.
Just some of their traditions and what they used to do.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like a good time, iguana catching, hiking up mountains and all. It sounds like you guys had a great time with everything that you got to do.
It was amazing.
What would you say was one of your favorite memories from the trip?
Oh, one of my favorite was when we finally made it to the island. We had the opportunity to snorkel on the coral reefs.
Okay.
And that first experience being in the water and in the above the coral, that was just incredible. Because like we mentioned, we took a fish quiz. Well, when you're snorkeling, you get to pick and see all the fish that you learned from class. And so that was just amazing to actually, again, apply what you learned in class to see it in the wildlife. It was incredible.
Were you able to take a lot of pictures too of all the fish and everything in the water?
I didn't personally, but most students brought their GoPros, and so while we were swimming, they took tons of pictures, and the wildlife there, that was just such the variety. I mean, we saw seahorses, we saw jellyfish, we even swam with sharks too.
Oh,
Yeah.
what kind of sharks? Like hammerhead or?
No, they have hammerheads down there, but the ones that we would see would typically be reef sharks, nurse sharks. They were not.
Nothing too
No. they weren't.
vicious. Okay. You never know. I mean, you never know what they have you doing down there. And for you, what was your favorite memory?
My favorite memory is probably kind of twofold. So the first night we finally got to the jungle after all of our travel, everyone just like tore off their clothes and jumped in the ice cold creek, which was really kind of uncomfortable at first, but it was amazing. Like, it was the perfect way. It was the only sort of like air conditioning you had was getting into the creek. And so that was really fun, and it was fun, like everyone was laughing, and I don't know, it was a great time. But then secondly, the very next morning, I like woke up and got to see how blue and beautiful the creek was that we like jumped in, because you couldn't see anything that night.
Right.
So waking up in the jungle was amazing. You couldn't see anything when we got there. It was so late. So
But then waking up and just seeing everything just
Yes.
really was a memorable experience.
yes, it was so colorful and beautiful.
Gotcha. And for you?
So every time that we would go out, we would see stingrays, and sometimes it would be small baby stingrays, and other times they would be these massive spotted eagle rays. And on our very last night, they have a giant spotlight set up on an area of the island, and then there's a long dock where you can walk out. And we walked out and saw that there were multitudes
How many
of
did you guys
spotted eagle
count?
rays,
It was
at
like-
least
So
50.
many.
Yeah, it
At
was-
least 50.
Of just stingrays?
Stingrays.
Yeah, spotted eagle rays.
Circling, traveling under the dock, traveling around. And if you had your flashlight, you could walk to any point on the dock and shine your light out and see stingrays as far as the eye could see. And it was one of those incredible once-in-a-lifetime experiences.
Yeah, because you're never going to see that anywhere else. I mean, maybe if you went back there, it's amazing.
Right.
And you've been to Belize multiple times. Do you have a favorite memory from the multiple trips you've been to? Or is that a tough one?
That's a tough one. I just love going down there. I do, as much as I like the rainforest and the cultural aspect of that, I could just spend all my time on the island. I love being on there. I like getting out in the water. The only downside is when the water is having to get back into the boat. I just wish I could stay out there forever. I just love seeing it. It's great.
What were some of the challenges you faced packing? Did you pack too much, too little? Was flying difficult at all?
Flying fine wasn't too bad for me. I've been on a plane before, and the actual ride from the Houston International Airport to Belize was only 2 hours. So really the fine wasn't too terrible in comparison to flying somewhere like Europe or something like that. But the packing-wise, it was a little challenging because you don't know what to expect, and you hear you have to pack light, but it's going to be hot most of the time, but it could rain. But what happens if it's a cool day and you're like, I don't know. So that was a little challenging.
For you, any challenges you faced?
Oh, not really. I think I ended up with more stuff than I needed. I only packed using a carry-on and a backpack, so I had limited space. But I ended up with clothes that I never wore, and I stayed longer than they did, and I had like clothes that I didn't wear the entire 16 days I was there. So.
Oh, you were there 16 days, and you guys were there 10, correct? Your total trip. Gotcha. Okay. And for you, any challenges you faced?
Well, I packed a ton of snacks because I'm constantly snacking on something, and so at least half of my suitcase was just full of snacks, and then I had all my snorkeling gear, and so then at that point it was like, well, how do I get the things that I actually need, my real necessities? But all of it came together perfectly.
And of course, Blair also packed her hammock, and I think won the award for sleeping out. I think every night on the island was just kind of a neat thing.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And you always slept in your hammock?
And nothing compares to being able to wake up and look to your left and just see the perfect Caribbean Ocean.
And the stars and everything out there, but it's really clear, no city lights or anything around that.
Oh, phenomenal.
And now this trip is available for any student who wants to go abroad. They don't have to be a biology major.
They don't have to be
anything?
a biology major. We have it set up where the prerequisite course is general biology, really any biology course, 100 level or above, just to have you basic introduction to some of the terminology that we have. But we get students from a variety of majors. You don't have to be a biology major to take that course.
Okay, and do you guys have any advice for students who are thinking about traveling abroad or studying abroad? Any advice for them since you have been abroad?
I would just say if you have the opportunity to take it, because I kind of went back and forth at first, and I was a little nervous because, like I said, it was my first time out of the country. But it is just unimaginable, and something now it's kind of almost awakened a hunger that I want to go abroad more. I want to go somewhere else.
So I encourage you to want to keep doing it.
Yes, definitely. I agree with that. My first year here at Southern, I'm in the honors program, and they told me we had to study abroad, and I really didn't want to. I didn't think there was a good reason for it. I thought it was expensive, and I would definitely go on this trip again. I just keep wanting to go somewhere else.
So change your mind about the cost. The cost is worth it, you think?
Yes, it was actually very cheap. Yeah.
And you?
I think there's a huge advantage to being able to travel with your professors who either have already been there or who have this knowledge base walking in where you can ask them questions. And then also, if you're a student at Southern, because you have the opportunity to get those travel grants, I think it's something that you really can't pass up.
Right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed hearing your stories and you telling us about your experience. It sounded like an amazing time. I definitely, if I come in spring, are you guys going to do it next spring?
We do it
Maybe?
every other year.
Every other year,
year.
okay. Do you allow alumni to do it?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
we
well
do.
then I'll be thinking about it. So
We'll
again,
have
thank
you.
you so much for being on the show. And thank you for watching another episode of Windows on the World. I'm your host, Alecia Henson, and we'll see you next time.